me the most return on my investment, right? So you can apply for a million scholarships, but if these are the types of scholarships that everybody else is applying to, and they're not the best ones for you as a student academically or based on what you do in extracurriculars, then it's probably not worth your time for applying. So I figured out a system of finding low competition external scholarships. And these added up. And fortunately, I was also offered additional full ride scholarships as well for my academics. One being to Barry University. I was a Stamp Scholar, go Bucks. Ended up going there for undergrad. And then when I decided to pursue a graduate level degree, I ended up getting another scholarship to attend the University of South Florida. So the reason why I'm sharing this is because I didn't start applying for scholarships from the time I started high school. It occurred to me junior year, okay, I have to get myself together. And that's when I started laying the groundwork. And as you guys know, some of you might be juniors, seniors, etc. There's so much that goes into college planning as it is. You already have to take your SAT and ACT. You're already doing tours. You're already trying to make the grades and apply for college as it is. You don't want to be in that boat. You don't want to wait till junior year. You don't want to wait till senior year to start applying for everything. Fortunately, it worked out for me, but you want to start as soon as possible. So even if you're already a senior and you're like, hey, I have 3 more months to go, start today. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about scholarships. One thing that I feel students tend to believe is that student loan debt is the standard because they see their mom, their dad, their sister, their brother, everybody taking out loans to go to college. But I want you to know that there's over $100 million in scholarships that go unclaimed each year in the United States. And the reason why I'm saying this is not to say like, okay, there are different organizations out there that they didn't select the students. No. A lot of times, if there's at least one student that applied for the scholarship, that scholarship will be awarded. So this is basically saying that there's over $100 million worth of scholarships that could have been applied for and nobody applied to. So the money is sitting out there, but you as a student have to do the work to go and find these low competition scholarships so that you can fund your education. All right, so at the end of this presentation, and I'm going to try and keep it to 30 minutes, please hold me to that. I can tend to go on for a while. But at the end of this presentation, we'll have covered the 7 types of scholarships, and you as a student will know which ones are right for you, how to find low competition scholarships that most students overlook, how to, or figuring out the art of creating a stellar application package, and then uncovering the proven strategies to help you know how to actually win the scholarships themselves. All right, and you'll also gain access to a scholarship tracker template, recommendation tracker, counselor contact tracker, 2 student resume templates, and access to a list of scholarships that I send monthly. These are all great resources because once you apply to your first 10 scholarships, you can start to think, oh, did I submit that essay? Did I mail that in? Who did I ask for my recommendation? And so this gives you 4 or 5 different resources to keep track of everything all together, which makes it much easier for you as a student to stay organized. All right. So the first thing that we're going to cover in depth is the 7 types of scholarships and where to find them. So this is in order from most competitive to least competitive. And as I said earlier, we want to focus on the scholarships with the least competition so that we're spending our time wisely and applying to the ones that we have the greatest chance of winning. So a classic scholarship, for example, is a scholarship that we've probably all heard of. Coca-Cola Scholars, Doodle for Google, Microsoft this and that. All of those scholarships, 9 times out of 10, come from the Fortune 500 companies, the companies that we've all heard of, Disney, Apple, Best Buy, Walmart. And because of this, they're very well known and super competitive. So they'll likely require a higher GPA, more requirements, more test scores. And because they are sponsored by a lot of these larger organizations, more students find out about them. It's not open to only students in Florida. It's not open to only students in the Southeast. It's open to most likely everyone in the United States, if not the United States and Canada, and other international students. So this is not to say you shouldn't apply to those bigger scholarships, but just know that there's going to be a lot of competition for one, and that means that it's significantly going to reduce the probability of you earning that scholarship. So if you know, hey, I have a 4.5 GPA, I scored a 36 on the ACT, I have a really good chance of winning this scholarship? Sure, absolutely. Go ahead and apply. But you'll see at the end of this slide, there are probably some other ones that you want to focus your time and energy on if you're writing these essays and gathering all these resources. So that's the first type of scholarship. Next, we have work or employer-related scholarships. So most students don't know, and even parents don't know, that a lot of their employers sponsor tuition assistance or give some type of grant or scholarship to either the employee themselves or the dependent of that employee. So for example, Kroger, very popular grocery chain, offers scholarships to all of their employees who are not only full-time, but part-time as well, as long as you meet certain requirements. So if you think of how many employees Kroger has, that might be teenagers can get scholarships, that might be adults who have teenagers, and as dependents of those adults, they would qualify for this support as well. It is still competitive, which is why it's higher on the list, because you have to think about how many people are employed by a lot of these organizations, right? And so if you're saying that the employee and their dependents are eligible for that support, that one employee, that dad or that mom could have 3 or 4 children, right? So it gets to be pretty competitive, but this is still a space that you want to make sure that you look. Chick-fil-A offers scholarships. McDonald's offers scholarships. So no matter what your job is, if you have a job, even if it's a small mom and pop shop, ask them if they're providing any support for students. And you want to make sure that you ask your parents, if their job provides any support for students as well. Okay. Next, we have Greek organization scholarships. So this was my bread and butter when I was in high school. For whatever reason, it just worked out for me. I grew up in South Atlanta in the suburbs, and all of my teachers, all of my counselors, all of my principals were a part of some Greek sorority or fraternity. Deltas, Alphas, Kappas, Omega, anything you could think of, there were five teachers that were a part of that sorority or fraternity every single year. And so what I did, knowing that they prioritize philanthropy, community service, and giving back to the next generation, because those are the ones that are going to go off to college. Those are the ones that are going to become future teachers, counselors, principals, lawyers, doctors, etc. I went on the website for the sororities in Metro Atlanta, and I searched it up, and I saw what scholarships they were offering, and I applied to those. And because I knew that I was in an area where that was highly regarded and where there was a large population of people in those types of organizations, I knew that I would find a lot, and I did. I think I ended up getting 3 or 4 different scholarships from sororities by itself, just the sororities. So you want to make sure that as females, you're reaching out to people in your area, your aunts, your grandparents, whoever it may be, godmoms, teachers who are part of these organizations, and ask them if they have any scholarships that are open. And of course, go online to see, search in your area, Miami, Florida, whatever it is, and see what scholarships are open for students from those organizations. Okay. Now we have nonprofit scholarships. For most students, there's a volunteer requirement, certain number of hours that you have to meet before you can graduate. It's how it was when I was in school as well. If you have extensive volunteer experience, the nonprofit scholarship is going to be a gold mine for you, because it's going to require students to show that they are actively involved in the community, and you're already doing that. So one thing that I always recommend students do, especially if they have a volunteer requirement, don't share the wealth. Don't volunteer at 15, 16 different places every school year just to lengthen your student resume and say, okay, I volunteered at all these different places. Because when it comes down to applying for scholarships in these organizations, they're going to say, okay, well, who is Janisha? We only saw her one time in the past year. Versus if I focus my volunteer efforts on 2 or 3 different organizations, they may see me once a week. So when it comes time to award those scholarships, I'm in the running, and they truly know who I am and the impact that I'm making for their organization. So if you actively volunteer, this is something that you definitely want to consider, and reach out to your volunteer coordinator to see what opportunities there are. Next, we have local business scholarships. Now, local business scholarships can be pretty odd. And when I say that, it's because the scholarships that you think wouldn't be out there are absolutely out there for any type of business. Let me give you an example. I won an $1,000 scholarship from the Korean Beauty Supply Store Association of Atlanta. Never in my entire life would I have thought that the beauty supply store series, chain, or owners were getting together to pour back into their community, which they serve, because I lived in a beauty supply store. I still do to this day. And so I was so grateful that I sought out that opportunity and went digging for local scholarships for businesses near me because nobody would ever think that the Beauty Supply Store Organization of Atlanta is offering scholarships for the community that they serve, but they did. And so it helped me pay for school. So when you're going to get your nails done, or you're going to get your hair done, or you're going to sit down for a dinner, or you're going to buy this, buy that, make sure you ask the owners of those businesses, make sure you go on their website, whatever it is. Do you guys offer scholarships for students? Are you guys doing anything to support the community? And see what different opportunities they have available. Because when I tell you there are so many strange scholarships out there that you can absolutely qualify for and have very little competition, you'd really be surprised. Okay, now we have religious institution scholarships. So for those that are part of some religious organization, church, mosque, what have you, reach out to your youth pastor, reach out to somebody in the church to see what they are doing to support their students. Now, if you are not a known member of the congregation, it will probably be a little more difficult for you to earn this scholarship. But if you're the type of student that's at the church early in the morning, you're there for all three services, you're there during the week, you guys have been a part of this church, you and your family for 10 years, you're more likely to get that scholarship, right? So if that is you, if that's your story, make sure that you make it known. Hey, we're patrons of this church. I need a little funding for college. Is that something that you all are offering? So make sure you reach out to somebody in your church community. Next, we have government scholarships. And this scholarship might have the most availability, but it still has the least competition. And let me explain why. So in Georgia, when I was growing up, we had something called Hope and Zell Miller. What that meant was if you graduate high school with a certain GPA and certain test scores, you were guaranteed to have your tuition paid for at a minimum. I think one was tuition and something else, and the other one was like half tuition or something like that. And this was available for every single student that lived in Georgia for at least 2 years and graduated from a Georgia high school and stayed in Georgia to go to school, to a public university, right? So think of how many hundreds of thousands, millions of high school seniors there are in Georgia graduating every year. Every single one of them has the opportunity to earn this, to earn full tuition at a minimum. The reason why I say it's not competitive is because there's no cap on the number of people that can be awarded this scholarship. Your only competition is yourself. The first thing that I tell my students that I work with is, hey, we have time. We have 3 years, 4 years till you graduate. Let's see what the minimum GPA is that you need to get this full tuition scholarship. Let's see what the minimum test score is that you need to get the full tuition scholarship. Because the tuition is the biggest bulk of your expense. Nothing will cost more than, I take that back. Some schools are a little strange. More often than not, nothing will cost more than tuition. Room and board is getting a little ridiculous these days, and rent. But more often than not, that's going to be the bulk of your expense. So if you can cut that down, that'll give you so much more options. And even if you do have to stay in state, there are a lot of amazing universities in Florida. There are a lot of amazing universities in Georgia or wherever you might be thinking about going if you live there, that you can attend and get a quality education. So I know in Georgia, in Florida, you guys have Bright Futures. So that would be something that I encourage every student on the call to look at what the requirements are to receive at least full tuition paid for and work towards that. So I'll pause here for any questions on the 7 types of scholarships or how to find them.
And girls, you can come off your speakerphone, you can show your screen and ask questions, or you can type in the chat, either or.
Yep. Okay, so I see your question here. What is the purpose of a scholarship? What does the scholarship look like? Can you use the same essay for every scholarship? Okay, so the purpose of the scholarship, well, there are honestly varying purposes, But in most cases, it's going to be to support your tuition expenses, fees, room, and board. There are some scholarships that are specifically for study abroad, travel expenses for students that play sports or play instruments to be able to get gear so that they can perform and keep up with others in that college who may be on full scholarship for performing arts or for athletics, what have you. So it's meant to support you in your education and you don't have to pay it back. Now, what does a scholarship look like? It depends. There's a range. I've seen scholarships from as little as $100, and I've seen scholarships that were a full ride, everything paid for, and you actually get money back at the end of the semester. Now, that's the goal, right? You want to have a debt-free degree. You want to have everything paid off, but every bit helps. I always tell my students, if you look at a scholarship and you say, oh, this is $250, this isn't making a dent in what I have to pay, I'm not going to apply for it. You and every other high schooler just had the same thought. So what does that mean? They're going to get less people applying for that scholarship. So you should definitely apply for that scholarship. You're going to have a greater chance of winning it. Additionally, every amount adds up. You don't have to get a full ride today to go to college. If you start applying for different scholarships right now, you can easily accrue the money every month, every quarter, so that by the time you graduate college, okay, well, you've amassed $30,000, even if you started today with zero, and now you can pay off everything that you had to. From now until the moment that you graduate college, you can keep applying and should keep applying for scholarships. They add up. I'm telling you, just keep at it, make a routine, and I'll tell you how a little later in this presentation, but it will add up. Okay. You should not use the same essay for every scholarship, and I'll talk about that a little more in depth in just a second, so I'll come back to it. And then the best way to find scholarships is, again, to prioritize the different type of scholarship that's low competition and best for you. So for example, I found success in Greek organization scholarships, right? So if I realize, okay, I applied for 4 of these and I got 2 of them, I have a 50% success rate. Now I'm on the hunt for even more because that's telling me I have what this type of organization is looking for. And you can use word of mouth, you can ask around, you can email these organizations. But we do live in a digital age, so one of the best things to do is to go online. And please don't be afraid to pick up a call. For example, local businesses, doctors' offices, lawyers' offices might not always have it on the website. They're saving lives, they're helping people out. The website might not be up to date, but if you pick up the phone, somebody's going to answer. There's always going to be a receptionist who can tell you when the scholarship is due, if they're offering one, if they've ever offered one, and when it will be open. So that's another very important point. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask questions. Okay. So let's go to the next slide because I'm really going to do my best to stay under 35 minutes. But I'll keep an eye on the chat in case there are any questions. All right, so there are 5 key components to a scholarship application package. First is a letter of recommendation. Then we have our transcripts, essays, of course. Sometimes a student resume isn't always asked for. And then we have our interview skills. So a letter of recommendation can open doors. There will rarely be a time in your life where you're going up for a spot, a position, an award, what have you, where you won't need a letter of recommendation, even after you graduate and you start applying to jobs. So you want to make sure that you make strong connections with people in your community, mentors, coaches, teachers, volunteer coordinators who can speak to your character and who truly are vested in your success so that when they write the recommendation, it's very compelling and they can cite specific instances as to why you're the student for this scholarship. And they're not just saying, oh, she's a great student. She came to class on time every day. She made good grades, right? You really want somebody who's going to put in the work in that recommendation so that when the committee reads it, they say, okay, they really think highly of the student. I always say try and gather at least 5 different recommendations. And the reason for this is, one, because adults are busy. You don't want to keep asking the same person to submit a recommendation on your behalf every single time you apply for a scholarship. And if you follow this formula, you will be applying to dozens and dozens and hundreds of scholarships when it's all said and done. You don't want to ask the same person. You also want to make sure that you are asking the person that's right for that scholarship. So, for example, if I was an athlete and I was applying for a athletic scholarship, I'm not going to ask my teacher. I'm going to ask my coach. I'm going to ask my trainer. I'm going to ask somebody within that field that could speak to my drive and dedication as an athlete. If this scholarship was for community service, I'm going to ask my volunteer coordinator. I might ask the teacher that coordinates all of our volunteer activities for the senior class because they know who I am in relation to the scholarship that I'm applying for. So that's also important. A lot of times, students just ask teachers, 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 teachers. There are so many other individuals, adults who could probably speak to your character and sometimes better than your teacher could that you have to make sure you have in your back pocket for certain types of scholarships. So that's the first part. All right, transcripts. So there are two types of transcripts. For my seniors, you've probably been sending them out, getting ready for college and things. So you know that there's an unofficial transcript and an official transcript. You need to have a copy of your transcript at all times. The copy that you have will be unofficial because it's coming from you as a student, as opposed to the transcript being delivered directly from your school. Whenever a transcript is delivered directly from your school, that is an official transcript. The reason why I say you always need to have an unofficial transcript, digital file, or what have you, is because you never know when you might need it for an interview or when you might have to mail it in. Let me give you an example. When I was a senior in college and I was applying to grad school, I stumbled upon the full ride scholarship that I got for grad school during Christmas break. I went to a Catholic university, Barry University, office was closed. The office been closed. Nobody was answering their phone. Nobody was going to answer an email. There was just no way. And I had to physically mail that transcript and that entire application in. So if I did not already have my transcript, I would not have been able to apply. And you don't want to have to run somebody down 2 days before an application is due to get you your transcript. So from today, if you don't already have your transcript, you want to make sure that you get that ASAP. If you have more time, in your high school career, you want to make sure that you do dual enrollment if you feel it's a good opportunity for you. You add AP classes, you add honors classes, because it does make a difference when you are applying for some of these more prestigious scholarships, the full rides, the full tuitions, etc. When you ventured out and taken some of these classes versus the general education classes your entire high school career. So if that's an opportunity for you, just be sure to jump on it. Okay. Essays. Essays are going to be the bread and butter of your scholarship application package. And the reason why I say that is because there are a lot of students that have good scores. There are a lot of students that have great GPAs. And even if you don't have a good score or a good GPA, that's okay too. There are a lot of scholarships that don't have those types of standards or requirements. But one thing that will always set you apart, even if there's somebody that had the same GPA and the same score, is your essay, because that is your opportunity to sell yourself. So a question that was asked in the chat earlier was, should I use the same essay for every scholarship? And the answer is no. However, I do have a hack that saves a lot of time. This is a hack that I still use to this day when applying for things, whatever it may be. You're going to create one single document that you're going to call your master essay document. For every scholarship that you apply to, you're going to write down the name of that scholarship, write down the name of the essay question, and you're going to paste it in there. The people that come up with these questions for the scholarships are not that creative. I guarantee you. So by the time you apply to your fifth or sixth scholarship, it's going to ask you the same question. Why do you deserve this scholarship? Why do you want to attend this university? Why did you choose this major? Tell me about a time when you overcame a significant battle. And what you're going to do is you're going to go back in your document, Control F, that's the function to find, why do I deserve this scholarship? And it's going to pull up the last essay that you wrote. Great. Now you're not going to copy that and paste it over. You're going to copy it and you're going to tailor it to the scholarship that you're applying to. So like I was talking about earlier, if it's for athletics, we're going to add some verbiage in there around athletics. If it's for community service, we're going to talk about how much you love service. If it's for a vocal performance, we're going to talk about your first time performing on stage. So you want to make sure that you tailor every single essay that you're writing to the specific scholarship that you are applying for. This also is a great skill to have for when you start applying to jobs. You don't submit the same resume for every job. You submit it tailored and tweaked to the job application that you are applying for. So this is going to be the bread and butter of your application. You want to make sure that you write a great essay for every single application that you submit. If they don't give you a word count, you're going to want to make it at least 500 words. A lot of students ask me that question, so I just want to throw that out here. They just put a blank spot on the form for you to fill out. Try and keep it to about 500 words and make it concise. All right, the student resume. So there are a couple different sections on the student resume that you should be aware of. First is name and contact information. So you're going to have your full name, your city or state, phone number, and a professional email. You do not need your full address. That is actually very dangerous in this day and age. There's no reason for them to know your full address unless specifically asked for, and 9 times out of 10, they can ask for that outside of your student resume. This can be emailed to multiple people. This can be printed out. This can be handed to whoever. You don't want to put your entire home address on your student resume. If you can look at these two examples on the right side, you see that there's a summary section. This is going to be 2 to 3 sentences about who you are and what your goals are in relation to the scholarship or university, or if you want to go to trade school, cosmetology school, whatever it may be, right? So you want to make sure that this is impactful. Again, tailoring it to the scholarship that you're applying for. So if my first scholarship was about environmentalism, we're going to talk about climate change. Or we're going to talk about why it's important to recycle, or whatever it is, the research that I did related to that. If the next one is about history, because I'm a history major, we're going to mention that somewhere in there. So you want to make sure that you're tailoring your student resume as well. Education, you're going to want to list your school, your GPA if it's over a 3.0, and your expected graduation date. All very important things to make sure that you have under education. If you're in the top 10%, 5%, if you're valedictorian, what have you, please feel free to include that information as well. Also very important. So the difference between the two resumes that you see here on the right is that the one in the front tends to highlight extracurricular activities and awards. As you can see, it goes summary, education, awards, activities, and you have service and work experience. Whereas the one behind it does something a little different. So it goes summary, education, areas of interest, and then relevant coursework. And the reason why I'm going to provide you guys with 2 different templates to use for your student resume is because some students simply do not have the time or opportunity to join 50 million clubs. Maybe they have to babysit their younger siblings who are at home. Maybe you have to work a job or two to try and save up for college to help out at home. But that doesn't mean that you're any less of a student, and it doesn't mean that you don't have great things to offer. It just means that we have to highlight it in a different way. So that's where you might list out your areas of interest. You want to be a chemical engineer. Okay, we're going to talk about mechanics. We're going to talk about chemistry. We're going to talk about mathematics, all those different things as your areas of interest. And some of the work you've done inside or outside of the classroom where you've had different projects, you've done different speeches, you did a science fair, whatever it is that relates to what you're applying towards. So that's something that I want to highlight there. And again, you'll have the opportunity to pick whichever resume best suits you. Then we have relevant experience. For the most part, being that you're in high school, you won't really have internships to add until you get to college. But if you've done any volunteer work or maybe worked with a family member, done some projects, done some mentoring, tutoring, any courses that showcase your strengths, this is where we want to add that in. So if you can see on the resume in the back, we have peer tutoring in there. For work experience, we had a student that did have an internship. So that's something that you want to add in there. It's not necessarily the space to list every single job you've ever had, just the ones that relate most closely to the scholarship. So that's the difference between a student resume and then a regular work or employer workforce, going into the workforce, trying to get a job type of resume. All right, interview skills. A lot of students tend to forget how important it is to keep practicing and improving and master the art of interviewing. My favorite thing to say is once you get to the interview round, the scholarship is yours to lose. They like you. You met the qualifications. If they're calling you into a phone interview or in-person, virtual, what have you, you're probably amongst the finalists and they want to see who they're going to select. So what you have to do there is sell yourself, which means you have to be good at interviewing. You want to make sure that you research whoever it is that you're interviewing with beforehand. If they give you a name or if they email you, straight to LinkedIn, straight to Google, do your stalker research. I'm sure we all know how to do that in this day and age. Find out every single thing that you can about this person so that one, you feel more familiar with them when you're having a conversation. And then you also, in the back of your mind, know what they do like or what they don't like. For example, if I was interviewing with someone and I looked them up and I saw, okay, in college they were president of the Environmentalist Club. Great. I'm going to tie that into the verbiage that I'm using in the interview at some point. They're going to know that I'm eco-friendly and I believe in climate change because it's important to them, right? So these are the types of things that you have to do. It is a little extra work, but it's going to make you stand out compared to other applicants. You want to make sure that you dress professionally for in-person interviews. I know things are a little more relaxed nowadays, and some students even have interviews in coffee shops, very casual places, but you want to make sure that you look like $1,000,000. You want to put on your slacks, you want to put on your blazer, you want to put on your closed-toe shoes. It doesn't matter where the interview is. You need to come dressed professionally because I would hate for a student to come dressed casually and then the person that's interviewing after them or before them come looking like they're ready to interview. It's going to reflect poorly on that student. So even though you're going to rehearse your answers, you want to avoid sounding rehearsed. You really do want to have personality. If you feel comfortable enough to make a joke, make a joke. Tell a story, ask questions. It's a conversation. And again, you want the person to like you at the end of your interview. So try not to be so serious, try to smile, just enjoy yourself and take advantage of the opportunity. You also want to bring all of the necessary documents that I mentioned earlier. So your transcript, your resume, all those different things, you want to bring at least 5 copies with you to the in-person interview. And the reason for this is because sometimes you think you're interviewing with one person and for whatever reason, now there's 3 or 4 people in the room, or the person that you were supposed to interview with can't make it and now there's somebody else. They didn't have an opportunity to review your file. You're going to have all this information there for them. And in some cases, the student resume isn't required, but if your resume is great, it might be something that you want to show off anyway. So now you have it with you. And here's my student resume if you didn't get a chance to look at it, or I also brought my student resume for your review. Your job as a student is to sell yourself in this interview. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about what everybody else may not be doing. You need to know that you're bringing your best foot forward in terms of professionalism and being on time and being polite, being kind and courteous, knowing information about the interviewer, about the organization, about the college, and making sure that you have all of your documents together. Okay. Before we go to the next part, are there any questions? I'm going to check the chat because I know I was talking for a minute. So I'll give it just a second. Okay. So now you know which scholarships have less competition, which might be right for you. You have the tools you need to find and apply and win them. Now what? Now what do I do? Now what's the next step? I'm going to drop this link in the chat for you guys right now. This link is to sign up for an email that's going to go directly to your account. It's going to contain all of the documents that I referenced earlier, right? So the 2 resume samples that you saw, the tracker templates, the counselor outreach templates is going to include a link to over 300 plus scholarships that is constantly updated. I'm in there every single day. You are going to start with that and you're going to say, okay, what do I have? What don't I have? I need to get my transcript. I need to start my master essay document. Boom, I've got that. Who is going to be my recommenders? I already have 1. Who are going to be my other 3? Let me go ahead and start asking them right now to write my recommendation. So when it comes time to apply, they can just send it to me and I have everything that I need. Now, which scholarships do I apply for, right? Keep it in mind that we're looking at low competition scholarships. What might be best for me? Well, I do a lot of community service, so I'm going to look at nonprofits first. Or there are a lot of Greek organizations in my area. I'm going to go look for those. Or there are a lot of local businesses that seem to be offering scholarships. I'm going to give some of them a call. You're going to take the document that you're now going to have, it's going to be in your email, and you're going to start editing your scholarship tracker. What's the amount? What's the due date? Is it one essay? Is it an essay and a transcript? Is it an essay and a transcript and a recommendation? You're going to write down exactly what it is that you're going to do. And the simplest thing, guys, I know it sounds complicated, but the simplest thing is you're just going to complete them. You're just going to keep completing, keep completing. You're going to keep being diligent, and you're going to keep tailoring your essays, and you're going to keep practicing your interview skills, and you will have success. I guarantee you that. A lot of students apply for 5 scholarships and they don't hear back and they want to call it a day. But if it was an easy process, everybody would be going to college for free. But it does take time, but you will see success if you are doing the right things. So please make use of those resources and please learn how to find those scholarships on your own, but also ask. If you're looking for specific types of scholarships, I'm happy to send those to you. I'll also go to the next slide here. Follow me on Instagram. I'm always posting scholarships specifically for women of color, for everyone. So these are the types of resources, these are the types of people that you guys as young people need to follow on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, what have you, so that they can give the information right to you, even if you don't have the time right now to literally sit down and do a diligent search for scholarships. They can come right to you. So please make use of all these resources available to you. So I'll stop here at this point to see if anybody has any questions.
So I'm gonna put them on the spot. I'll give
Okay.
you guys a few seconds to think of one question. Each person have one question. It doesn't matter what the question is. There's no such thing as a dumb question. It's okay if you're asking her to repeat something, but think of one question to ask while you have her here. And she didn't say it, but I want to brag on her. She also have a book that she sells that helps guide you through the process of gaining scholarships.
Yep.
So she is full of knowledge, full of energy, full of information. And it's important for you guys to take advantage of this time to ask anything that you need or want to ask her while you have her here.
Yes, please don't be shy, guys. Any question that you have, I'm happy to answer, whether it's scholarship related, just college. If you're thinking about attending, if you've heard of Barry University, if you're thinking about Barry University, if you've heard of the University of South Florida, both schools that I've attended, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Can you have an IEP while you're in college?
You can, yes. There are different programs, I would say, that do allow that. Of course, every college is different, but for the most part, you can get that additional assistance or a tailored curriculum if you have that paperwork for sure.
Thank you.
Mhm. No problem. And there are also a lot of scholarships for students with IEPs. You'll see a lot of those on the list that is going to go to your email as well. But that may be one area that you want to look for because there's a smaller population of students with IEPs, which means that there's less competition for those scholarships. So that's one thing to consider too.
Samaya.
Thank you, because I have an IEP and I was just wondering, like, can you have it while you're in college?
Yeah, absolutely.
Samaya, you're next. Samaya, can you hear me? Perhaps stepped away. Zenaria? Oh, Zenaria, if you cannot speak, it's okay to chat. One question. Zenaria, can you talk right now? Or you're texting, chatting? Oh,
Some
she,
of the Mhm.
go
Some of
ahead.
the most useful sites for scholarships. So, I get this question a lot, and me personally, I did not use scholarship websites when I was applying for scholarships, and there are many reasons for this. One is because, well, I think I did initially start out trying to use them, and I just found that a lot of them were spammy. Now I'm getting a whole bunch of emails in my inbox. Now I'm getting a bunch of mail to my house, and I wasn't seeing any results coming from the scholarships themselves. One thing I'll say, if there's a no essay scholarship, don't bother applying for it. It's an information grab. They're asking for your name, where you live, what school you go to, your email, and that's it. And you don't have to submit anything additional. They're just trying to grab your information. And so that's what I found on a lot of those sites like FastWeb, bold.org. One site that I feel does have some good scholarships, but you kind of have to vet them, is scholarships.com. Never apply through the scholarship site. If you do find a decent scholarship on a site like that, search the name of the scholarship in Google and go directly to that site, because sometimes you apply through that scholarship organization and your application never makes it to the committee. I've heard that a million times. So I first of all recommend that you do your own research on Google, even on Facebook. A lot of organizations post their scholarships on Facebook. Visit the site specifically and apply there. But again, you're going to want to make sure you're vetting the site. College Board is not bad. Scholarships.com is not horrible. But FastWeb or Scholarly, you're going to want to stay away from those for sure. But that's a great question.
And while you guys are on here, if you have the time, I would suggest to sign up for her newsletter now. While you have the link, everything is fresh. I would say follow her on her social media now as well. While everything is fresh, you have all the information in front of you. And I'll also drop that information in our app so the rest of the teens who are not here tonight can still have access to follow. And does anybody else have any other questions or anything to add? All right. Well, I want to say thank you for coming here and sharing this information with us tonight. I really appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure all the other girls do as well.
Thank you guys for having me. I, again, do appreciate your time and truly do mean it when I say if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me or reach out to me on Instagram. People ask me all the time, like, hey, I need scholarship specifically for welding, nursing, this college, whatever it is. I'm more than happy to help, because when I tell you I come across so many scholarships on a daily, I'd be happy to share them. So please feel free to reach out.
Yes, also want to thank you, Miss Janisha. I think you did amazing tonight. I think the girls really, really liked it. And I can't wait to see what else you have in store for the future. I can't wait to see if you write any more books. You guys, she does have books. Well, a book, okay? So definitely hit that link, click on it, and sign up for the newsletter so you guys can get a chance to read it, because it's actually going to be very beneficial to you guys as well.
100%. There is one more thing that I want to say before we hop off, if we have a second still.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Go
Yes.
for it.
Okay. So I also have a personalized scholarship giveaway going on right now through the end of the month. And basically what that is a personalized scholarship is me doing the work for you guys to find the scholarships that are best for you. So it's going to be a list of 30 different scholarships tailored to the students' academic profile, their interests, where they want to go to college, where they grew up, their major, their race, their ethnicity, their gender, what have you. So it's really going to take a lot of the guesswork out of, oh, where do I start? Where can I start finding those scholarships outside of the list that you guys are going to get from me anyway? But this is going to be specific to you as a student. So if you want to nominate yourself, that link is in my bio on Instagram. If you want to nominate another student, if you want to have your parent nominate you, whatever it is, please go ahead and do so. I've already gotten so many great nominations and submissions. It probably will be difficult to pick somebody, but I know that this is a very, very helpful resource. I wish I had somebody to say, here are 30 scholarships that you can apply for Here are the due dates. Here's exactly what you need to do. That would have saved me so much time. So please go ahead and nominate yourself if you're interested in that. And now I'm done talking.